Okay, today is 25 June 2008, and we are at the Buffalo Erie County Historical Society, and we're interviewing Judge Joseph Sedita, and the interviewers are Wayne Clark and Kathleen Vogel-Matthews. Mr. Sedita, for the record, would you please state your full name, your date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Joseph J. Sedita, born in Buffalo, New York. Date of birth, June 19, 1918, which means I had a 90th birthday a few days ago.
Well, happy birthday to you, sir. Did you go to school in Buffalo?
I went to school in Buffalo, school number 1, which was located on the west side of Buffalo, an area practically 90% Italian background. From school number 1, after graduating from school number 1, I went to Hutchinson High School for 2 years, and then to Grover Cleveland High School for 2 years. I graduated from Grover Cleveland in 1937. I then began looking for work, and work was non-existent at the time. And so after 1 year, I returned to school. I went to Hutchinson High School and took up shorthand and typing.
Okay, and do you remember where you were when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
I first remember that I was at home. It was a Sunday, I believe, and the radio was flashing news. And the manner in which the radio was playing indicated something important had happened. And so shortly thereafter, I realized Pearl Harbor had been attacked, and I realized the consequence of that would be what it meant. I was working at Curtis Wright at the time, working with engineers, taking shorthand and then typing up engineers' reports. We went for lunch, and over the loudspeaker, President Roosevelt was making a speech. And that was when he made his famous infamy, a day of infamy speech. And of course, I realized at that time, at some short time, I was going to leave my sweetheart and be drafted into the Army.
Okay, and when were you drafted?
I entered the Army June 2nd, 1942.
Okay, and whereabouts did you go for your training?
We were sent to Fort Niagara. We were there about probably 2 weeks, and then we were told to get ready. We were going to be shipped somewhere. They never would tell you, and we were shipped to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. I was shipped to a single corps unit. What they began to do the early days, I kind of remember that we were being taught communications, working with wires. And later on, of course, I learned that they were preparing this group to join some infantry group and the communication end of it. During the time that I was taking these lessons with the other soldiers, I stayed here that a large number of us were called, and then some officer began to randomly ask us to come forward, selecting us from the group. What they had done was they took us into a large room, found out what they needed urgently were people who could type. And so they were going to see if they could find at least a few soldiers that could manage to type fairly well so that they could use them. When I sat down to type, having had experience as a typist, I began to type quite rapidly. And the officer walking around watching the respective soldiers came over to me to see what I was doing, because my typer was clicking away. I guess he thought I was playing around. For his exact words to me, as I remember clearly, was, "What the hell are you doing, soldier?" And I, frightened and nervous, "Sir, I'm typing what's up there. Let me see those papers." He looked at the paper, called an officer over who was a captain. "Check the third paragraph for the captain," he said to me. So I began to check the third paragraph for the captain, and they took it, looked at each other and smiled, turned to me and said, soldier, how would you like to stay in New Jersey?
Mhm.
And I said, I would love it, be close to home, close to my girlfriend. And so I was assigned to as a company clerk to a company where they were training what they used to call the 90-day wonders, the individuals who became officers.
Mhm. Okay, and basically you typed up morning reports or whatever
That's
they
it.
needed?
I did the morning report and other things that had occurred. I stated that, I mentioned this high school experience, having gone to school and taken shorthand and typing, how well it served me. And then I mentioned that another experience I had as a soldier in the Army was that at the time that they had brought in about 200 Italians who were war prisoners.
Mhm.
They had been housed in England, somewhere in England, and for some particular reason, they shipped them to Fort Monmouth. Fort Monmouth had an area that was abandoned. They were not using it anymore, and so they must have decided this was a good place to house the prisoners, and so they brought them in. Well, apparently looking through my personnel records, it indicated that I had studied Italian in high school, and as I stated, not that I was looking forward to study Italian, but I thought with a little Italian background, I'm going to be able to get through this course like nobody's business. But I made a big mistake. It was tough. However, I did learn to speak and write Italian. Additionally, while I was in the Army, I had a chance to continue writing in Italian because I would write to my dad in Italian about what I was doing in the Army and how things were going. And when they looked at the personnel records and saw that I had studied Italian, they called me in the office and began to interview me, asked me a number of questions. Amongst them was, was I able to communicate in Italian? I said, yes, I was. And some other questions relating to my experiences in Italian and as a hopeful Italian teacher. And then they decided that I was qualified for what they wanted. What it was that I was placed in charge of the Italian war prisoners. And I was with them every day, tending to their needs and whatever was important or essential to their well-being as well as ours.
Were you like a liaison?
Yeah, that's exactly what I also was a liaison between the Italian officers and the American officers. So that, because of that, and then additionally, this group that I had come with, they were being trained, and a number of officers were being trained to, apparently to go to Italy. And so Colonel Ellis, who was in charge of our regiment, decided that it would be beneficial if the officers had learned to speak basic conversational Italian. And the next question was, do you think you can teach the officers basic conversational Italian? I believe I can. And so we had classes sometimes in the afternoon and sometimes in the evening. I think about 3 episodes, 3 lessons a week.
Now, what rank were you at that point?
I was I don't know if I was a corporal or a sergeant. I believe I was a sergeant. I've been a sergeant. That incident, Colonel Ellis and the officers then began telling me I should go to officers candidate school because of how I was able to teach and communicate. I listened to them, and I say that they were the officers who were training the officers to be. And so it was going to be easy for me. They were going to, for sure, make sure I was accepted. But I began to think, so far, things have been going pretty good for me. Just leave the fates alone and just follow what happens. And I opted out and I stayed in New Jersey until, and then I stayed there. I thought, wow, for sure now I'm going to end up in Italy when this is over with. But to my amazement and surprise, and probably the way the Army does things, I was shipped to the Pacific.
Oh, okay. When were you shipped overseas?
Sometime, I believe, in 1944.
Okay.
Yeah.
From New Jersey, did you go to a post
yes.
in between?
Yes, we went to Camp Crowder, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mention that. I remember now Camp Crowder, Missouri, there were a number of officers that were being utilized by the Army. These officers were individuals from General Motors, for example, and from Ford Motor Company. They were executives, and they were being brought in because of their executive ability. And they didn't know pretty much what to do with themselves during the day, awaiting further orders. And so somehow I was selected to drive them about. And I had a friend who was a lawyer who was really into movies, and he was in charge of showing movies. And I called him, I said, I have some officers that have time on their hands. Do you think you can accommodate with movies? Absolutely. Well, they were delighted because they had something interesting to do. Mm-hmm. And again, they were another group of officers who began talking to me about being an officer. And again, I said, thank you, but no thank you. That was something that happened. Then from Camp Crowder, Missouri, I don't know why, I was sent to Halliburton, Maryland for some sort of training. I've forgotten, in Baltimore, Maryland. And then back there, and then we were shipped to Seattle, Washington, from Seattle, Washington to Hawaii.
Now, you went over in a troop ship?
That's another experience. We were part of a group of ships. Mm-hmm. And we took off. We were on, I learned now that it was a 10,000 ton ship, which I suppose is relatively small, since a warship was 35,000 tons, and these pleasure ships are even larger. So I was on this ship. May I just interject at this moment? Sure. When I came back, when I was discharged, I came back on the USS West Virginia, a ship that was was bombed. Mm-hmm. At Pearl Harbor, and it listed all the way back to the United States. In any event, we started off, and when I was awakened in the morning, everything was real quiet. The boat was not moving. So we realized we went back to shore, went back to port. Something had happened to the boat, and all the other group of ships had continued. So now we started back all alone. Ran into a violent storm. And then on one night, there was an alarm. And we all had to run up on deck. And I guess they thought it was a submarine. Mm-hmm. And it was not a submarine, it was some big passenger ship. So it was a little excitement for the moment, but fortunately nothing dangerous.
Okay, and then you landed in Hawaii?
When I landed in Hawaii, I don't know what was on my mind. I thought I was going to see natives come running from behind trees. When I got there, I was amazed. This was an ultra-modern place with electric streetcars and automobiles flying all over the place. Beautiful hotels, movies, and so on and so forth. Not a lot of hotels, just two at the time. One in the Royal Hawaiian. Mm-hmm.
And how long did you spend in Hawaii?
Just about a year, almost a year, and we were getting ready to, getting us ready to move forward again.
Now, were you a company clerk in Hawaii?
I was a staff sergeant. Well, I was a clerk. I was not a company clerk, but I was a typist, and took shorthand too. Worked at, I was with called it, I believe, the 5th Echelon Supply Depot. That had like a factory there where all equipment was being manufactured or repaired for being shipped back to the front lines for the soldiers. Mm-hmm. My job was to collect and correlate everything that was occurring and give it to Colonel Williams. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I had done, which earned me some kind of points, was that I would go out to the factory part of our depot and communicate with the officers in charge of the different divisions, because they might be falling behind in their repairs or manufacturing, and they would have wholly held to pay with Colonel Ellis if that were so. He did not hesitate in reading them out real good. So I'd run over and tell them, officer, your papers, your reports on, thank you, Sergeant. So I got to be their friend, and so that was one of the things I was doing, preparing reports and a whole multitude of reports related to a multitude of things, and I don't remember any of them clearly. I mentioned that something after the war had ended, and I was awaiting my turn to return. They asked me to stay on as a civilian. When I tell that story, I said I still had that depression mentality. What am I going to do when I get back? Will there be a job? And so they told me that if I stayed in Hawaii for 2 more years, that they would promise me a job in Washington, D.C. Now, I was supposed to go home to see my family. They would ship me to see my family. Supposed to pick up my wife and son, move her and my son to Hawaii. Again, they're going to give me a townhouse on the post, soldier's privileges, shopping and all that. And after 2 years, I do the same work I was doing. And after 2 years, see that I had a job in Washington, D.C. That's where she came in. She knew that I always had a great desire to go to college. That was a big, big thing to me. And she says, no, you're coming home and you're going to do what you always wanted to do. Thanks to the GI Bill of Rights, you're going to go to college. I came home, went to college. I worked 6 nights a week while I was going to college. I worked in a liquor store. And in the summertime, when school was not in session, I was a mailman. I delivered mail, and I worked the liquor store at night. And I graduated from law school in 1950, passed the bar the first try, and became, I believe, a successful lawyer, and then went on to a judgeship.
Okay.
There's a little bit of...
What point along the way did you stop and get married? You were
Well,
on the USS?
Well, the minute I
You
became...
were at Baltimore and then Seattle and then Hawaii, but somewhere along the way,
Yes,
you
I
made
went
time
in the
for
Army
marriage.
June 2nd, yeah, and when somebody had told me, you know, that if you get married, you can live off post and you'll get additional money if you have a wife here. And I wrote to Tony and told her about it. What do you think? She said, let's get married. And so came Buffalo, I was in uniform, and she was in a bridal outfit, and we got married, had a little house party, and then after a little while, she came back and lived with me until I was shipped away.
And that was in Baltimore?
No, that was in Fort Monmouth.
Oh, in New Jersey.
Yeah, we lived in Long Branch. Yeah, right, we lived in Long Branch.
Okay. Well, while you were married and your wife was with you, did you work at all?
No, in New Jersey?
Yes.
No, I did not.
Okay.
In fact, our son was conceived in New Jersey,
Okay.
and he was 3 months old when he was shipped out, and I shipped home
You went back
to
home.
my mom.
Yeah.
Okay. And all right, you were in Hawaii. Where did you go from Hawaii?
There.
You stayed in Hawaii till the end of the war. Okay. And while you were in Hawaii, did you see any celebrities or USO shows? Or?
Oh yes, there were a lot of shows. I remember Bob Crosby. I saw fighters. Freddie Apostoli was a fighter, and I used to know the names of them, like Lon Monroe, a whole bunch. The shows would come to Hawaii,
Okay.
and but I have no recollections, but I do know that we were regularly entertained.
Okay. What were your living conditions like in Hawaii? Were you on an army post in barracks?
We were in barracks. And then
Okay.
a little picture will show we lived in barracks, and from the barracks, that's where we lived. We would either walk about a mile to the depot. It was an old one, and they built a brand new one, and it was about a mile away. And we walked there, and that's like was going to the office to work
Uh-huh.
every day. Worked until about 5 o'clock and then sent back. So this is why I say, yes, I was in World War II, but I was no hero like these other fellows who were shot.
Well, I'm sure what you were doing was considered very important at the time.
I did what I was told, and I tried to be a good
Exactly.
soldier.
Well, the Army had to run on
Yeah,
bookmaking and all that sort of thing.
It's coming to
Couldn't
my
run
defense.
without them.
right? And
Okay.
So,
So don't forget her husband.
her husband
I
helped
think-
us win that war.
each and their own had their own important contribution to
Mhm.
the war.
Yes.
I don't think any of them could have survived without the other.
Mrs. Sedita, when you went there to New Jersey, were there other Army
Pardon?
wives? Were there a lot of other Army wives in New Jersey
yes.
with you?
Oh, yes, there
Yes? A lot?
Yeah.
were. Thank goodness.
That's how I got the idea.
Yeah.
It's not, I wasn't
You
smart enough.
had the idea already.
No, I don't give me credit for such smartness.
Do you recall where you were and what you were doing when you heard about the death of President Roosevelt?
Yes, I was walking downtown in near Waikiki,
Mm-hmm.
and from a little novelty shop came blaring the music, the words over radio that President Roosevelt had died, and it went through my mind like it went through everybody's mind at the time. What are we going to do now? But the fact of the matter, at least in my opinion, we got a person who rose to the occasion, President Truman.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like when they dropped the atomic bombs and the war ended? Was there a lot of celebration? And
Let me put it this way: there were no regrets. So I'd rather put it that way than say how happy we might have been. But there was no regrets because the papers, the Honolulu paper, of course, had tremendous headlines, and there were also indications that this might bring an end to the war a lot sooner. This is, of course, what we were all hoping.
Mhm. Once the war ended, how long did it take before you were shipped back to the States?
I got myself all excited over because I didn't know better. The first group that were returned were those that had 80 points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I had to calculate to get 80 points, it would take me another 5 years, and I got all exercised about that. But that's not the way it went. 80 points were the first ones to leave, and then it kept lowering the pointage. And because I had almost 4 years, though, they were probably about 3 months they had reached me, and then I got a call over the loudspeaker, Sergeant Sedita, get ready, you're going to go home.
Mm-hmm. And when did you get discharged, and where did you get discharged from?
We left Honolulu,
Mm-hmm.
and there again were the ships the battleships on their side, and we were put on the battleship to go home. I thought that there was going to be someone giving us orders like they do in the Army, but I found out you better scramble for yourself to find a place to sleep. And fortunately, some soldier that had found a cot and a mattress was kind to me and says, I'll take the mattress, you take the cot. So it took us 7 days and we landed at San Pedro. When we got to San Pedro, about 10 days to 2 weeks later, they said, you're ready to go, and whether you like it or not, you're going to go by plane. Well, I had been away so long, I didn't want to take any chances on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, you're going to go whether you like it or not. But that morning they said, if you don't want to go, you don't have to. Well, at this point I said, I'm going. So I had a plane ride home. We got to New York City, and I'm anxious to get down, and the pilot said at the time that the brownout is over with New York, the lights are on, how would you like to see it? So and they flew the plane up and down Broadway. I wanted to get down. this is so unconnected to the, to my experience. So, however, I ramble on.
No, that's fine. That's interesting. And were you discharged from
Fort Dix.
Fort Dix? Okay. And you recall the date of discharge?
It was November the 20th, 1945.
Okay. And then did you take the train back to?
As we went from New York Central.
Mm-hmm.
It was in New York Central, and train. Soldiers pulled me in from the window. I don't know what I was waiting for, and we traveled back we got on the plane, it was dark, and we landed in Buffalo in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I was anxious to see her, and I don't know why, I began to get afraid. Maybe she didn't love me anymore. And instead of taking a cab, I took the streetcar down Broadway to Shelton Square, and the streetcar down Niagara Street
Mm-hmm.
to her apartment. And when I got to the steps, I began yelling, "Tony, Tony," and all the people came to the door to cheer me on, and I hugged my girlfriend.
Now she was your wife at that point.
She was my wife.
And you had a son at that point.
I was his son, and she said, "You want to say hello to your little boy?"
And that was the first you had seen him.
And the little boy saw his mom, who he had all to himself, hugging this guy, and when I went over, he just pushed me away. He wanted no part of me.
Rob,
So it took a while.
Yeah.
we had lived alone for a year.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Okay, and then how long before did you take a job right away or go to school?
I got the job at the liquor store at night.
Oh, okay.
So I started work 3 days later after I came
Oh,
home.
you had a job right
They
away.
were waiting for me.
Okay. So you didn't make use of like what they call the 5220 club? That was like an unemployment insurance? Okay.
No, I had the job because they were paying me $15 a week. And I think I was getting $90 a month from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in the Lakeview projects. I think our rent was $18 a month, and that included heat and electricity. It was a great place to live
Mm-hmm.
when we were there. And then we were able to get a telephone, a party line for $3 a month. A little bit different than now.
Uh-huh. Now that's something you don't hear about anymore, are party lines.
That's right.
Okay, and then you became a lawyer?
Went to the University of Buffalo on the campus
Mm-hmm.
for 2 years, and in the summers too. So that I had the equivalent of about 3 years. And of course, I had gone to Miller College before the war. And while I was in Hawaii, I went to the University of Hawaii, and I studied business law there. So I would go at night to school. Because my nice work with the officers, one of them was going to University of Hawaii, and he would drive me there,
Mm-hmm.
going with me, sergeant. So I did go to University of Hawaii. So I went to University of Buffalo. It was a bit of a hike. I'd have to take a streetcar on Niagara and Hudson to Niagara and Delavan, a bus from Niagara and Delavan to Niagara to Delavan and Maine, and then a streetcar. You know what that is, a streetcar? A streetcar to University of Buffalo. Back the same way, try to squeeze studying in. She made sure I had as much private time as we could probably squeeze into study, go to work, come back and study till about 12 o'clock at night, and then go to bed and start the day again. Same routine.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you passed the bar on the first try.
Then I graduated from law school in June 1950, took the bar, and I think,
Yes, he did.
and then I passed the bar. My brother was,
And so did our son.
she knows about our son.
Yeah.
She,
Our son was there when he graduated from law school,
Yeah.
and he got his degree. And we were there when our son graduated from law school and got his degree. So
If you
it's a
haven't noticed,
long story that ended beautifully.
Right,
if you haven't noticed, she kind of likes her son.
yeah. She
Uh,
kind of likes her husband too.
I think so. Well, it was, my brother became mayor of Buffalo. But before that, he was working as a, no, he was a city court judge, I believe. He turned to me one day, he says, you know, Joe, practicing law is very, very difficult. He said, you're married now, you have a child, so I think you ought to take the examination for city court clerk. So that you'll have a steady job and you can take care of your children, your son and your wife. And so I took the examination. Well, I just got out of law school, so it's understandable that I would place number one, and I did, and then I was appointed. Business, because of my work at the liquor store, having met a multitude of people who had known I was going to school, and then imagine they must have had some brains to do all this, must have had some confidence. They began to come to me. So I was given all kinds of work. I was overwhelmed, and the civil service job was on my way, so to speak. And when I was going to leave it, it was with a little bit of admonition from my brother. You know, you're giving up a civil service job, but you're 21, you're a lawyer, guess you know what you're doing. It'll be all right, Frank. And it was. From city court, and this has nothing to do with the Army. In 1975, I was elected to Supreme Court.
Well, that's pretty impressive. And when did you eventually retire?
I retired in 1992, and I've been working since. So I still work. Usually work on Mondays, and sometimes the second day, sometimes a little more. In the beginning, I was working much more. I was working about 4 days a week.
And what kind of law are you practicing now?
I'm not practicing law. I cannot practice law.
Okay.
I just go, what I'm doing now mostly is, in the beginning I was hearing cases after I retired. At this point what I'm doing is I supervise the jury selection process.
Oh, okay.
So I make speeches. I make speeches to the different panels. Probably I'll have 3 panels on a Monday. And I'll go from one room to another, make speeches, tell them about their duties, so on and so forth. And then I'll retire to a little office, and the lawyers will begin the selection process. And then when there's an argument between them over a juror, they want a juror excused for what we call cause. They could sometimes excuse for a peremptory challenge, but you're only given a certain amount of peremptory challenges, and they want to preserve those. So they'll try to get a challenge for cause that won't count against them. And so they'll come to the office and discuss the matter, argue. Both sides, I'll listen to them. Sometimes I'll call in the person that's involved, question them, and then I'll adjudicate it, make a decision, either tell the person they stay on or they're excused.
When you look back, how were those prisoners from Italy treated when they were in New Jersey? How did you feel they were
I made
treated?
a little note about that, Kathleen,
Oh,
because of something
Tell them
interesting.
about what they
I'm
do.
going to tell. They loved America.
yeah.
They did not like England. Not only for the food, they just did not like England. But they loved England. I never became that Italian boy that's working with us. I was always an American soldier to them. As time went on, they seemed to have a little more confidence in me. But they were given a desolate area of Fort Mount. And then they took this, and then incidentally, they didn't like something else about New England, or England rather. They were given potatoes all the time, and they hated potatoes. But what we did here, we gave them bags of flour. the bags of, it was brown flour, and they made their own pasta and whatever else they wanted. So they were delighted. They grew gardens, tomato gardens, and then they took the area and with stone and sand and whatever they got their hands on, they turned this into a spectacular area. So that on Sundays there'd be a caravan of cars coming from the town, going through the town to go past their barracks to see what they had done, because everybody was talking about this beautiful, beautiful area that they had made. So much so that the officials in the city had to put a stop to some of it because it was impacting on the ability of traffic to move smoothly. But they turned it into a beautiful site.
How long were they there? Likely to be at the fort, the whole length of...
I don't remember if I left before they left. No, they didn't leave before I left because they were staying.
Through the war, they maybe stayed, and you left?
They stayed there probably, I'm sure, until the end of the war.
Did any of them have families in the States?
Oh, yes, I remember, of course, was able to get in some personal conversations with them, and I remember Cuccinota. Cuccinota had a family, and Cuccinota was a professional bicycle racer. So I remember him.
Okay, did you, after you got out of the service, did you join any veterans organizations?
799, the Adam Milwaukee Post. No, I had no contact with them anymore. I don't know if they're still going or what.
Did you keep in touch with anyone you were in the service with?
2 people. One was Adam Digas. He was a soldier with me in Hawaii. I said he was a very religious person. He was had great amount of faith and passed some of it on to me and helped me. The person would listen to my stories of my wife and son. And he went to Chicago to live. He had a government job, and he was delighted when he heard that I had become a lawyer, and then again when I became a judge. And then he wrote to me and told me that he was fatally ill. He had cancer and he died while he still was in his 40s. And the other person was Captain Johnson, who was my company commander. He's the one that tried to get me promoted first to first sergeant and then to master sergeant. One of those wanted me to go to the officer school. He came to Buffalo and we visited after the war. He was a big fellow, twice as big as I. And he became superintendent of all schools in the state of Georgia. So I had some contact, writing contact and personal contact once, I believe.
Okay, your time in the service, how do you think it changed or affected your life? Do you think you would have, if it hadn't have been for the GI Bill, do you think you would have become a lawyer? Or?
I don't know, I can't say that, but I bet that she would have been willing to go to work to make it possible. And so I never had to answer that, and so I never had to feel bad that she was working while I was going to school.
Okay, do you have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your interview.
All right.
Oh, do you have some photographs to show us?
I bought these back, but I had one I was going to leave with you.
Okay, will you hold that up in front of you and I'll zoom in on it with the camera. Bring it back towards you. Okay, that was taken where? Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you know what year approximately?
Yes.
About 1944 probably, or?
44 is close enough.
Okay.
This I want back. This is called Polkowski.
Okay, if you hold that up towards you, because if it's too close, I can't focus in on it. And that was at the honor flight?
Yes.
In June of 08, right?
Yeah.
June of 08.
Now, whereabouts are you in that picture? You're the one
I'm
with...
the little one.
Okay, you're talking to Senator Dole?
Yes.
Okay.
And you're wearing a University of Buffalo cap, right?
UB cap.
Okay, got it.
This is pretty much the same. Well, maybe you want this, because I don't know if you want any of these, if you want. Because this one has Kolakowski in it, and he's the one that really we owe a lot to.
Okay.
Had you been to see the monument before this?
No, and I haven't had an inexplicable desire to see it. I wanted to see it. It became a major want in my life, and my son said, Dad, you're going to see it.
Okay.
And then this came along,
Right.
and we were supposed to go together, and Joni turned to me and she said, you go with that flight, it'll mean a lot more to you if you go with fellow soldiers.
Yeah.
I met some great guys there. Ray, who was a prisoner of war, told me how he was a prisoner of war for 4 or 5 months, lost 30 pounds. There were persons who were wounded, would not talk about it. One cheerful, thankful group.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your interview.
This was an unusual experience for him. And I thought we can always go to Washington another time.
Yeah.
But it was a very meaningful.
This is for
Right.
Kathleen,
I think
because
so.
I didn't know what was.
And your son will want to go perhaps with
He's
you.
been
and-
there.
Oh, he's
He's
been
been
there.
there. He said, you
And
gotta
you
see
know,
that.
when we went to the airport with him,
Yes?
our son, of course,
No.
was there. And he took so many pictures and had them put in a little album for him. And he
Yes.
had pictures of other soldiers
That's
that
nice.
morning. It was very, very,
It's
a
a
very
disc. I can put it on
sentimental.
TV.
What is, you're going to have a disc that you can see, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is something I can keep?
yeah.
Oh, how very nice of you.
Now, you know what?
People you recall. Oh, we'll copy this. Thank
You
you.
have my complete, what do I want to say?
Gratitude.
No, no, thank you. Permission to edit whatever you want, because I rambled on, as I said.
Oh, no,
And,
we don't edit anything.
And I didn't say anything of such grave importance like the soldiers who really fought in the war and told you how it was to be wounded, how it was to be in a hospital, how to miss your how it was to miss your family and so on. They're the real heroes.
Well, everyone had a role to play, and you did your job.
I did what I was told.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you,
also,
sir.
this helps the future generations. They can see the totality of what, people did during World War II. They get more of an experience.
Well, you know, there was one woman veteran with that group that went to Washington.
Uh-huh.
She was in a wheelchair, but she was there. And I thought that was great
Yeah.
to have at least one woman representing them.
Well, I got a letter from Cindy Jones. She was one of the guardians. While we were in Washington seeing the memorial, the heat was 106 degrees. And it was unbearably hot, and we had to keep our jerseys on for identification in case we got lost.
Right.
And then we went over to the Lincoln Memorial, and I went over to see it, and I decided, you know what, you better rest a little bit. I didn't know, I just wasn't feeling right up to par. And Cindy sat by me, and then began to put ice packs on my neck until I was ready to start running around again. But they were wonderful. They were wonderful. The guards.
Flight guards, yeah.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Okay, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you
No.
both for coming
Am I going
in.
to see any of my friends?